So where we left off on flies, yeah, we left off with flies. That's why I stopped recording on Sunday, was because of the flies. So it was this one. Anyways, we left off on the story was when I came hitchhiked back from Crater Lake. You know, that I decided that month-long plan through the month of September, hitchhiking around Oregon, was not going to work. It was just not going to work out. And I was just having the intuition, gut feeling that I needed to respond to that email that I got while I was at Crater Lake. You know, I told you while I was charging my batteries on the second day there, I got that email from one of the jobs I had applied for. And my intuition was saying I needed to follow up with that. So from Crater Lake, I hitchhiked all the way back, caught a ride all the way to Sun River. My mom picked me up from Sun River, brought me back to Redmond, and then from that point forward, I was living at their house from September all the way until about May of the following year, or might have been April or May of the following year. So when I returned back to Central Oregon with my mom, essentially the next step I took was responding to that email, letting the owner of the Christmas light installation company business, you know, it's a family-run business that hangs Christmas lights all around Central Oregon. Doesn't matter if it's residential homes or commercial businesses. They just do whoever wants their lights put up. So I contacted that person. He replied back, and then we set up an interview. And I ended up, you know, I believe it was, you know, this next day or following day, drove to, I think it was Tumalo, Oregon, which is where my interview was at. And I met him, the owner, and then his younger, I think it's his stepson, and might have been one other person. So there's 3 people in the room, and myself. You know, I'm the one being interviewed. And they asked me all kinds of questions about if I'm scared of heights, you know, what my job experience is. You know, the whole works of what you would usually get asked in an interview, but this one was specific to, like, am I afraid of heights? You know, because this job would entail a lot of climbing on ladders and a lot of work on top of people's rooftops. And I'm not scared of heights or any of that, so I wasn't sure how many people had applied for the job, but one thing that I offered the owner to set myself apart from the rest of anybody else who might have been trying to get the job was I told him about my photography and experience with video, and I told him that you know, if he brings me on the crew. Once we get started with the season, I was like, I can get out my camera and I can get out my camera and tripod and do some time lapses while we're installing lights. And then I told him we do a bunch of different jobs, can time lapse all of them, and then once I have a whole bunch of variety of stock footage, I can compile it into a video and make an advertisement for him. That way he could put that video on social media or his website, however he wanted to do it. And that way any potential clients / customers who are looking to hire a professional company to come put up lights, if they find his website, they'll have this video showing our time lapses of our work, and then at some point I would go back at nighttime and take pictures of the jobs that we did with the lights turned on and, you know, it's dark out. So I do a little bit of long exposure photography to really bring out the lights and all that. And so the owner really liked that idea, and that's what we ended up doing. He hired me, and he had 2 crews. There was like one crew was like his son and one of his son's best friends. And then and there might have been a third person on their crew. And then I got put on a different crew with 2 other people about my age. And like I think it was like the first week or the first 2 weeks, I did a ton of time lapses and video of of us while we were doing our jobs. You know, I got my training and everything on how to do all this. And then I created a video for him and gave it to him, and then he ended up putting on his website and his social media and stuff. And like a long story short, in regards to the video that I made, like that season, I believe his business grew like 100 to 150% based off like the previous years. It was like, that's, I guess, how effective the video was just getting people wanting to hire his business to get all these jobs done. The job paid really well. Every single job we got done, each person within the crew got commission. So the more efficient we were, and you know, the better job we did, the more efficient we were as far as getting the entire job done in a relatively fast time frame, as opposed to being lazy and slow and dragging on a single job like an hour or two longer than it should. The better we could get at it, the more money we could make each day, and it just all adds up. The more, as long as you're efficient every single day, you can make some pretty good money every single day. And so I actually did make really good money that first season. I ended up getting a Toyota 4Runner within like the first month of working there. The owner had a big, like a van similar to mine, but not a travel van. It was like a cargo utility van. He had multiple vehicles and a trailer, a pull trailer that had all of the supplies and materials we needed for all these different Christmas light jobs. So that's the vehicle I used when, as far as the crew. I ended up getting put as crew lead at some point. So I was in charge of keeping all the materials, making sure we have all the materials that we need every single day, and then picking up the crew. The two people that were in my crew, we all rolled together in the same vehicle throughout the day, and then everybody gets dropped off at the end. And I ended up getting pretty good at it. It seemed pretty straightforward to me. I wasn't scared of heights, and my crew, we always did the job pretty well. I seem to, from my perspective, I really liked hanging lights on trees, live trees, not Christmas trees that are inside, but wrapping really big trees with lights. Those are really cool because I made them look really, really nice. We did some really big trees. I think the biggest tree we wrapped was like a 40-foot tree. We put like 3,000 feet of lights in it. Yeah, it was a lot of lights. And I think by the end of the season, we roll out probably between like 20 and 25 miles worth of Christmas lights in just a few months, and then we have to, once the season's over, after Christmas and after New Year's, we have to go back and take it all down. That's pretty much what the job entails. So I ended up forming a pretty good, at least from my perspective, I felt like it was a pretty good relationship with the owner of that business. He seemed like a really nice person, and he was my first season. He helped me in a lot of different ways, getting me back on my feet in the sense of helping me get a vehicle, always communicating with me, always respectful. He just helped me every step of the way as far as being as successful as I could while I was working with him. And then we maintained contact even during the off season. Just to let you know a little bit of the future, I worked 3 seasons with him, and these seasons ran from, it was like around the end of September or the very beginning of October. That's when we started doing Christmas light installations, and he had that much business, had that many clients lined up where we would have to start sometime in October, and in order to get everybody's lights up at least by Thanksgiving, that's how early in the year we needed to start. So some people had their Christmas lights on their houses before Halloween, but they weren't turning them on. They were just installed because we wouldn't have an opportunity to get to them later. And I think he also offered discounts to people that wanted early installations. And then we always got a whole bunch of new customers as we were putting lights up. We'd be putting lights up at a house in a neighborhood, and we'd have neighbors seeing us do it, and then they'd come over and ask us, for prices, and then we'd refer them to the owner, and then the owner would come out, give them a quote. And there's sometimes we would start on one house, and then we had a plan to go to another neighborhood later in the day, but that ends up getting postponed, where we do one house, and the next thing we know, we do 4 more houses, all within this small neighborhood, just because people saw us up there doing it. Yeah, we made really good money. Everybody that was part of it, we all made good money. And I was able to get a Toyota 4Runner within a month. I think it only cost $2,500. It wasn't. It was like a 1992 Toyota 4Runner. It was definitely fit my personality. I don't care about having new things or new flashy things. It doesn't matter to me. The older Toyota 4Runners are pretty cool vehicles. And that's what I found on Craigslist. And I had that for a couple months. And then, so by around Thanksgiving, just keep in mind, as I'm working and doing this job, I was enjoying the job, and I looked forward to doing the job every time I went to work. It was fun. But just don't forget, at the same time, I was living at my parents' house, and all that shit, all the things I've already talked about in these previous episodes, segments, all of that was still current. So even though I was working all of this in Central Oregon, I'm living at my parents' house, and I'm still dealing with all this shit with my dad. So, never really talk. Every time I was home, I'd never really talk to him. Pretty much just kept my distance and just living my own life, trying to keep him out of my life as much as possible. And but there wasn't anything really weird going on at that time. This is around between October and November of 2016. And because things were so weird with my family dynamics, when we start getting close to around Thanksgiving time, I had reached a point in my life where I wanted to get a dog. He's right there. I wanted to get a dog. And I started looking on Craigslist. I keep bringing up Craigslist. That's just been my go-to. I've had good luck, a lot of good luck through Craigslist throughout my life. Once Craigslist became in existence. Because when I was younger, Craigslist didn't exist, but once it became in existence in this world, and I discovered what Craigslist was, and I eventually got more and more experience doing it as I got older and stuff, and kind of knew how to, sell things, buy things, maneuver around sketchy situations for the most part. But at that point in time, November 2016, I started feeling like I wanted to get a dog. And because of I almost got a German Shepherd, just long story short. On Thanksgiving Day, I went and had a dinner with my entire family. My mom, dad, sister, her husband, and their children. Maybe my aunt, my great aunt. Beyond that, it was just, that was all the people that were there on Thanksgiving Day. And on Thanksgiving Day, I found, it might have been the day before, that I had found an ad on Craigslist for somebody who had German Shepherd puppies. And I contacted that person because I wanted to get a dog, and I was going to get a German Shepherd. I wanted to get a Husky, but I didn't know how to find a Husky puppy. But I like German Shepherds too, so that's what I was looking for. And I found an ad that had someone that had German Shepherd puppies, contacted the person. Thanksgiving Day, that person contacted me and told me I could come get one of the puppies. And so right after we ate dinner, right after I had dinner with my family, I told them I was going to go get a dog. And my mom and dad, they did not want me to get a dog. Or my dad definitely didn't want me to get a dog. And they argued with me. This is Thanksgiving, right after dinner, and they argued with me about this decision I was about to make to just leave the house and go get a German Shepherd puppy. And I just ended up leaving. Said, I was like, I'm gonna go do it. I don't care what you guys say. I'm gonna go do it. Tough shit. And so, as I'm driving to the address of the person that had just contacted me and told me I could come get one of the puppies, he contacts me again and says that the puppies are no longer available. I guess there was one other person ahead of me. You know, there's like 4 or 5 puppies, and there was somebody ahead of me who. There might have been multiple people ahead of me, and there was only 2 puppies left when I was going to get one of them. Well, it's windy. Wait a second. Oh, my timer's not going, so I need to check this. 3 minutes. All right. I looked over, and the countdown clock on my phone wasn't counting down, so I wasn't sure how much time I had left on the camera, and there was only 3 minutes left, so I figured I'd just start it over before I start getting into the dogs. So I was saying there was two, when the owner of the puppies contacted me to come get one of the dogs, there was only 2 dogs left, only 2 German Shepherd puppies left. And so, as I'm on my way there, that guy contacts me again and says the person ahead of me decided to get both the dogs rather than just one of them. And which means, you know, he didn't have any more puppies left, and he was just giving me a heads up that not to come over. And so, at that, I was kind of bummed out because I had made the decision to get a dog. I was committed on that decision. And I was committed on saying, I'm committed in the aspect of I was not going to listen to what my parents had to say about it. I was going to get a dog. At that stage in my life, I needed one. You know, considering what happened to me in Hawaii and then what had just happened in Colorado, at that stage in my life, I was having the realization that I might not be able to travel abroad. I might not be able to travel the world. And if that was the case, I wanted to have it didn't mean I wasn't going to travel around the United States or different places, but I needed to have a dog with me, you know, kind of a companion, because I just kind of had a feeling things were coming down the road, you know, long ways. I felt like something was coming, and it would probably be a good idea having a dog to kind of protect me. So yeah, the puppies were no longer available. I was bummed out. So I either went all the way back home to my parents' house where I was living, or I just went back to my sister's house where we were having Thanksgiving dinner. But ultimately, when I returned, you know, I didn't have a dog, and I told my parents the dogs weren't available. And so, you know, I'm sure my dad's like, yes, he's not getting a dog. You know, just because that's who he is. He's just, anything that doesn't go my way, he's like happy about it. He likes seeing bad things happen to me, and he likes seeing me stumble, because he'll say that, oh, it's unfortunate or whatever, but in the back of his mind, I believe he gets excited or happy when I'm not doing well, or things don't go my way, or any kind of misfortune. He just kind of laughs about it, like he thinks it's funny. Well, Lucky. Oh, he's right there. For some reason, I thought he went that way. I can't recall how much time passed after the Thanksgiving and the German Shepherd puppy incident, but I had not given up on looking for a dog. You know, that was just one situation that didn't work out, and it was kind of like my interpretation, how I felt when it happened. It was like, oh, well, God's just telling me that wasn't the dog for me. It's not time. Okay. You know, I just let it go. I wasn't dwelling on it. Lucky. Making sure where you're at, buddy. You're a good boy. There he is. I'm about to talk about you. Yeah, I'm about to talk about you. Like I said, I wanted to get a husky, and a big part of my reason for wanting to get a husky goes all the way back to Colorado. I told you that owner bought, I believe it was about a dozen huskies. They had been sled dogs. The owner called them working dogs, and once we had them on his property, he's told us strictly that they are working dogs and we're not allowed to bond with them. And the dogs got put in the 80-foot by 100-foot kennel, and the females had been separated from the males, so there was a divided, like a wire fence that divided the males from the females. So I can't remember if there was 3 females or 2, but they are stuck alone by themselves with the males by themselves over this other one. And each of the dogs had its own doghouse that the owner had made out of the trees that myself and one of the other ranch hand had been cutting down on the owner's property. We rolled them down there, and he used some of the logs that we cut to cut everything to specific sizes, and then he built like dog houses that were, they're about this wide and about this tall, and then every single dog had its own dog house, and they're each spaced. Each dog was chained to that dog house on like a 5-foot chain, which gave them enough room to walk around the front of their dog house, climb on top of the dog house, or go inside, but they could not go any further than the chain that they were at. And then they were all spaced out apart to where no dog could touch each other. So considering I like dogs that are off leash, and I don't like dogs that are chained up like they're prisoners or slaves to humans, that bothers me. Just dogs that are just chained up, and that's their life pretty much, is just chained up and neglected, except for when their owner wants them. That's not what dogs are for. And even though we were told we're not supposed to bond with the dogs, as part of our responsibilities as ranch hands, we were supposed to feed the dogs. Once all the huskies were transported to the lodge and the dog kennel was completed, and each dog was put in their own dog house. Once all that was said and done, from that point forward, it was my responsibility and the other 2 ranch hands. We were supposed to feed the dogs in the morning and in the evening. But since they had arrived in the summertime, they weren't even being used. The owner bought them to use them as sled dogs during the wintertime. But the remainder of the year, when there's snow on the ground, but the remainder of the year, they're just chained up, and they just get fed and given water, and they're pretty much ignored all the remainder of the year by the owner. That's how I could see their life from that point forward, now that they're at that lodge, because that's how the owner was treating them. He wasn't treating those animals as if they had feelings or personalities or anything, but he looked at them as nothing more than working animals, and that's what he established is how we should treat them. I didn't treat those dogs that way. I bonded with a lot of them, I let them off their leash as much as I could so that they could run around the pen. They're still confined in their pen, but whenever I was down there with them, I'd let them all, the females and the males, off the leash so they could at least run around and interact with each other. But then when we were done, we'd have to chain them all up again. When I had left Colorado after everything that went down between the owner and I, as far as me leaving on bad terms, I was not happy about the dog situation that he had. I felt really bad for all those dogs. I wanted to set them all free and just let them go run off into the woods if they wanted to. But if that owner had not sent me the second half of that paycheck, if he would have stiffed me on not paying me what was owed, I had gone through my mind. It was like, if he stiffs me, I might end up just hitchhiking all the way back to Colorado, sneaking onto his property in the middle of the night, and then just let all of his dogs go. And then whenever he wakes up in the morning, all of his dogs will be gone. And he probably won't ever get them back, because they won't want anything to do with him. And however long the dogs live, that's, if they can survive out in the woods, good for them. They'd probably run around as a pack. But, if they end up starving or not surviving, at least their spirit's free from the slavery that they just got away from. But that didn't happen. You know, I didn't go do any of that stuff. The owner paid me what he owed, so I didn't carry out that thought I had. But the memory of them was still there, knowing that they're at this point, none of those dogs are probably alive anymore because so much time has passed. They've probably all passed on from old age or injuries or something. But you know, enough time has passed where they would have died, all passed on from old age, so they're probably no longer around. But those dogs are what really made me want to get a husky. I've always liked huskies, but having those dogs, or taking care of those dogs, that's what really made me want to get a husky after Colorado. So, you know, when we fast forward back up to November 2016, when after Thanksgiving, might have been a week later after Thanksgiving. At some point, I started looking on Craigslist again, and there's like a category, I think it's called pets. You know, there's all those different categories on Craigslist. I think at the time there was one called pets. So you click on it and just see what anybody's posted. There's dogs, cats, rescue dogs, dogs that need to be adopted. There's anything and everything. But I saw an ad, and the ad just said husky puppies. That's all it said. The title of it said husky puppies. And so I clicked on it. And then, you know, once you click on a title, that's when you can read a description. There's not really it literally wasn't, as far as I recall, there wasn't a description. It just said husky puppies as a title. And then it was either just husky puppies in the description and then contact if you're interested. That's it. Nothing more than that, to not even pictures of the dogs. Okay. But something told me to just contact that email and see what happens. You know, who knows if they even have the dogs anymore. Enough time has passed. Maybe their dogs are gone. The puppies are already adopted. But I contacted the person, and then it might have been the same day, it might have been the following day, I don't remember. But eventually the person who put up that ad, they recontacted me, and that person told me that they did not have the dogs, they didn't have puppies, but he was posting the ad for one of his friends who just had puppies, whose dogs just had puppies. And after I talked to him for a little bit, you know, I think it was exchanging emails, maybe a phone call, I don't remember. But at some point, he gets me in contact with the breeder of his litter. And so at some point, I get a phone call from the guy who has Malaki. Malaki was just born. He might have been born Thanksgiving Day of 2016. Maybe the day after Thanksgiving. I don't know. But the guy who had the puppies, he contacts me, and I ended up being on the phone. He interviewed me before he even gave me the option of getting the dog. I had to prove myself worthy of. Hold on, it's getting windy. We talked on the phone for 2 hours, and the whole time he was interviewing me as if I had to prove myself worthy of taking one of the puppies he has. The guy, him and the guy was his dogs, like Malaki's mother and father. They're purebred Siberian Huskies, and he has a circle of friends who all have purebred Siberian Huskies, and it's like a pretty tight-knit circle. I don't know anything about them, but from what I gathered, their dogs is a pretty tight-knit professional circle, like responsible husky breeding. And I had to prove myself worthy of getting one of his puppies. I had to tell him all about my intentions, how I intend to take care of the dog, all that, you know, anything you can expect somebody who's not going to just give away one of his puppies to a stranger and allow that dog to have a shitty life. He was just making sure that I would do pretty much everything in my capacity to give him a happy and healthy life. But at some point, he offered to let me get one of the dogs. He said, he gave me an option. So out of Malaki's litter, his mother and father, his mom had 4 puppies. So Malaki's 1 out of 4. There was 2 females and 2 males. His brother was black and white. So out of the 2 males, there was a black and white one and a red and white one. One of his sisters was like full copper color, like a full red, copperish color, like barely any white. It was a really pretty looking puppy. I have no idea. I would like to know what his sister looks like now at the same age, wherever she's at in this world. And I don't remember what the other female looked like. It might have been a black and white one. But the females were spoken for, and I had the option of choosing between him or his brother, the black and white one. And I asked the owner if, because they're still really little. They're only a few weeks old. And I asked him, I was like, do they already have personalities? Is there a difference between his personality and his brother's personality? And he's like, yeah, they already have a personality. He's like, his brother just pretty much just runs, and he doesn't think first. He just runs around and he's just ornery. And then he said that Malaki sits first and he thinks about what he's going to do, and then he'll respond. And I was like, I want him. I want the brown one or the red one. That's what I need, is a dog that's going to think a little bit before he does. That way he keeps himself out of trouble. I want a dog that has intelligence. And so that's the decision I made, and the owner of the dogs, the guy who had the puppies, he reserved Malaki for me. And I believe Malaki was born in southeast corner of Oregon, somewhere in the very southeast corner of Oregon. I don't even know where. But somehow he got transported all the way to the valley, to somewhere near Gresham, Oregon. When Malaki was old enough to be, he was old enough to be separated from his mom, from Malaki's mother. I got Malaki when he was 6 weeks old, which was just around the time puppies are okay with being separated from their dog. I had arranged to meet up with the guy who was bringing Malaki somewhere around Gresham. So my mom ended up coming with me. I don't want to roll this up. My mom came with me. She rode with me the way there. So I drove all the way from Redmond to Gresham, and then once I got Malaki, once I had him in my hands, he was only like this big, just a tiny little guy. Once I had him, my mom drove the rest of the way back, so Malaki was pretty much in my lap the entire time. It was pretty cool. Once I had him in my hand, there wasn't a single time that he got upset. Like, he didn't cry or whine like one time. He was just comfortable being with me. Excuse me. There are certain topics that get me kind of choked up, and considering everything that him and I have been through together, and knowing the pain that I have felt and that he has felt, sometimes when I talk about him, it gets me a little upset. Just knowing what the bad guys were trying to do is excuse me. I'm talking about recently. As far as them trying to separate, trying to get me locked up forever, and then separated from him forever. So when I talk about him and I get emotional, it's first I get, I might get teary-eyed or might get choked up or something, but then I get really angry afterwards, and you'll understand why. Because when I start talking about him on camera, I start reminiscing on all the different things that that Malaki and I have been through. So you might not know why I'm getting choked up, but I'm just thought about stuff. So that's just it's a product of the PTSD. I'll get over it real quick. Hold on. But yeah, Malaki once. It was like Malaki already knew who I was, and he knew that he was safe. And so from that point forward, he was, I had him when he was this big, and so that's where he's at now. He's 8 years old. But the first few weeks and months with him, cute as a button. He's ornery as hell, but he was cute as a button. And I didn't even have to potty train him. It was absolutely incredible. As young as he was when I got him, he never ever peed in our house. He knew to pee outside from the beginning, to do all of his potties outside. Never pee or poop in the house. I think to this day, at 8 years old, he's only had an accident in the house. He's never peed in the house ever in his lifetime, as far as I'm concerned, or that I'm aware of. He's had, he's gotten belly aches a couple times in his lifetime where he's pooped in the house, and that's just a disgusting mess. But overall, he's never had to deal with the bathroom issues all the way from the beginning. He knew it, which was really awesome. He's very independent and makes his own decisions. Even to this day, he's not a pet. He's not, as far as his personality, he does things. He'll listen to me because he respects me, but he doesn't. He decides when he's gonna listen, and he decides when he's not gonna listen. He makes his own choices. It doesn't matter how much. Doesn't matter even if I try disciplining him, it's not going to matter, because if I try disciplining him, it just means that I'm going to lose his respect and he'll listen to me less. So as far as our relationship, I try to respect him as much as I can and watch out for all of his needs as much as I can. Try to keep him safe as much as I can, give him as much exercise as I'm able to, and not leave him feeling abandoned ever. My first year and a half with him was a very big challenge. It wasn't until a later time, I've met his spirit. I know who he is. Once he dies, the spirit that inhabits him, I know who he is, and there's a lot of. I will explain those experiences later. His spirit is pretty significant in not in this world, but in a different realm, reality, dimension, whatever you want to call it. He's very respected amongst entities. They know he has had a very significant role to play by coming into my life, and you'll learn about that. I plan on elaborating on all of that as we're going throughout the story. You'll hear all kinds of cool things about Malaki. He saved my life many times. He's very intelligent. At this point, I'm pretty sure he knows everything I say. He understands everything I say. He has his ways of communicating with me when he knows what I'm saying. Sometimes he'll wink at me, he'll full on wink at me. I'll be talking to him, And then I'll ask him like a yes or no question, or if he agrees or something, and he'll just wink at me one time. So I treat him accordingly. I treat him just like I would treat a friend. We're just in this together. But the first year and a half, we hadn't like him and I we've had a spiritual bond, like we're bonded, and I will explain what that means once we get that point in the story. I'll tell you about that experience. Like we're spiritually bonded in a way. If I were to die, he would probably. If I were to die, he might die from depression. That's the that's the level of a bond we have. So if him and I become separated, there's a lot of pain. If him and I become separated, I can feel his pain. And I'm sure fucking flies. And I'm sure he can feel mine. So he's very significant to me, as you can tell. So the flies are appearing. Whack at them. But I keep saying, when the first year and a half was a challenge because we had not bonded. Because of who he is as a spirit, he was challenging me. It was him and I were having a battle for first. Once he got out of his puppy stage and he was in his adolescent age, he was challenging me to see who's going to be the boss. So he's always doing stuff, trying to see what he can get away with, how much he can get away with. Just being a butthead all the time, never listening, ever. Just being a turd. Anytime I'd take him on walks, it was just like, hey, he's trying to rip my arm off, trying to go 1,000,000 miles an hour. So it was a battle between him and I, until at some point we bonded and he accepted me as someone that he can look up to, that someone that will keep him safe and protect him, and then he would return the kindness. And since then, after this year and a half span of us just going at it, now he's a really, really cool dog, especially as he's getting older and older. After he's had a whole bunch of experiences, he's learned a lot. He's very smart. He has PTSD. He hates fireworks. He really does not like fireworks, and he does not like gunshots. The loud bangs, thunder, it gets him kind of worked up. Just anything with a loud bang, that can trigger him and make him get kind of scared. And when he does that, then he's just kind of like right up next to me, and he just sits on alert, and he just wants to be comforted. As of lately, I've mentioned these gunshots that I've heard since I've arrived in Wyoming. All of those gunshots that I've mentioned on camera, he hasn't been bothered by them. Yeah, so if all those things are true as I thought, and if you're one of my friends or supporters who's watching this and you know about what actually happened, just know Malaki was not scared that night. He knew we were safe, so whatever bad guys got dealt with, Malaki was not in fear either. He was okay. But aside from these most recent weeks, Malaki has PTSD like I do. He just has it. He has it in his own ways. He does not like strangers trying to grab him. He does not have it. So, for example, I took him to the vet. Fucking flies. Seriously, I'm gonna get you. I took him to the vet right before I left Oregon in the van. I had to get him some medication for ticks. Ticks, like like parasite ticks, not ticks, but like parasites, ticks, and mosquitoes. I had to get him some medicine so that he wouldn't have be at risk of catching Lyme disease or anything like that while we're out in the forest. But when I took him to the vet, he did not want the veterinarian to touch him. Like, this is after this is just a few weeks after he'd been kidnapped and drugged and stuff. So whatever happened when he got taken from our house that night, now fast forward to when I'm taking him to the vet, he did not want anybody other than me touching him. He was doing everything in his power to get away from people. So like that's something that he has to deal with, and he's pretty smart about it. He's pretty good at telling the difference between people who are good and bad. He can literally read people that have bad intentions, and he gets mean. He can become like aggressive mean when there's somebody that's within proximity of me or him that's up to no good. Like he'll fucking growl at him. But then there's other people that, friends, family, just neutral people that are nice and good energy and stuff. He'll just go run up to him, and he'll literally stop listening to me and won't listen to me, even though, say he's off leash and he sees somebody that he can sense is a good person, and I tell Malaki no, stay with me. He'll just take off running. He will not listen, and he just runs up and says hi to the people, and then they say hi to him, pet him or something, get all excited because Malaki ran up, and then he'll run all the way back to me like it never. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just saying hi to those people. It's all good." And so, like I said, he makes up his own mind. Sometimes he sees people that he feels might be having a bad day, and he just wants to run over and say hi to them to brighten their day a little bit, get a smile out of them. He just acts like a goofball all the time. So I've learned, since I've had him all this time, so I've learned how he functions. So sometimes when he runs off and isn't listening to me, I know he's not going to do anything bad. He's not going to go attack somebody. He's just running over to say hi to somebody, or if he sees a dog, he's going to run over and say hi to the dog. That's the big thing that he does not listen to, is, as far as listening to me, is he loves dogs. He loves other dogs. He sees other dogs, and Malaki's off leash, and the other dog's off leash. He's not going to listen to me. He's going to go play with the dog. He's pretty funny. But yeah, when I got him at 6 weeks old, I raised him from that point forward. He was mine. Took care of him every step of the way. At some point, once he got old enough, started taking him out on longer walks, taking him out on hikes. And then, I think it was around February or March of 2017, I decided I wanted to get a travel van. I wanted to start doing the van life, and considering that this Christmas light job had paid really well the first season, I got myself a vehicle, and then I got Malaki. Malaki was expensive, but not nearly as expensive as other breeds of dogs and like that. Like Malaki cost me $1,500 altogether. There's no need to be secretive about it. That's how much I spent to get him. It was $1,500. It's crazy. Like some people that what is it? What kind of English bulldog? No, English bulldogs. Scott. What are those? French bulldogs. Yes, I always forget the French bulldogs. For example, like French bulldogs. I think those dogs cost some people charge like $3,000 per puppy. It's pretty absurd how expensive some puppies can be. And Malaki was pretty expensive. He's pure breed. He's a pure breed Siberian. I wasn't really concerned about the price. I didn't give a shit about the price when I saw him. I was like, he's mine. We're supposed to be. And so how he ended up in my possession, I believe I can just give credit to God. Everybody that's been watching my back, I really believe that Malaki was born into this world when he was born into this world, specifically to come into my life. So on that Thanksgiving day, when I decided I was going to get a German Shepherd puppy, some kind of divine intervention came in, and because I had committed and had intent of getting a dog, I had established I'm going to get a dog. That opened this door where they're like, okay, well, Brandon's going to get a dog. We need to get Brandon a very special dog that can help him with this very difficult path that he has ahead of him, that Brandon has no idea about at the current moment. So say if there's some type of divine intervention and there's some other entities deciding how things are going to play out. Okay, well, we're gonna take the German Shepherds off the table, and then we're gonna have Malaki. Malaki's gonna voluntarily come into this world and be incarnated as his body, as a husky, a red husky. That's how he's gonna be born into this world, and then him and I are gonna be connected at some point. So this was all set up. That's why I got Malaki, because Malaki, him who he is as a spirit, the spirit inside the dog, he's the only one out of all other kind of dog spirits that could have not only protected me from the bad guys, he's protected me from falling into the darkness. In the sense of all the bad guys that I've encountered in these past few years, through everything I've been through. If I didn't have Malaki with me, my mind and my spirit would have gradually been falling into a darker and darker place. So if Malaki wasn't in my life he wasn't the light in my life. So every time I was falling into a darkness, Malaki's job has been just to be in my company. Whenever I'm feeling down or I got shit going on that's messing with me, his job is to lift my spirit, to brighten my mood, so to speak. That's his role, is to remind me of what I'm fighting for. His job is to keep me focused on what I'm here to do in this lifetime, which is to unite people and face this evilness, the wickedness that has consumed Earth, or is trying to fully consume Earth. That's what I've been fighting against, is the bad, and fighting against the bad, and just that's where my focus has been. It's really hard to, if I don't have help, it's really hard to look away from the bad, if that makes sense. So his job has been just to keep me reminded of not going down the darkness, because he's as innocent as can be. He's fucking amazing dog. Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to stop. There's only 2 minutes on the clock. I'm going to stop and take a break. I just kind of told you about how Malaki came into my life. But now, like with the next segment, I'm pretty much going to be moving forward with, once I had a travel van and once I had my dog, that's when I eventually leave Central Oregon for the summer of 2017. I left Central Oregon and went up to Montana. And so this next segment, after this cuts, the next segment I'll be talking about the next steps that I took, and then Malaki's in the picture, so I'll be talking about what him and I were both doing up in Montana, and then once we came back to Oregon, all that different stuff. We're getting really, really close to me making plans on going down to Las Vegas, where all of that stuff starts coming into the picture, and DMT and mushrooms and all that. We're really close. So once we reach that point, the story is going to, depending on your level of awareness, the story might start getting really fucking wild from your perspective. And there's going to be things I'll talk about that you probably have never heard of before. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but there's a chance that you've never heard about some of the things I intend to share. So yeah, I'm going to take a break, and then at some point I'll start recording again, and then we'll just continue forward. Alright. It's been about half an hour since I cut. Kind of repositioned a little bit, just because the sun's moving and I don't want to sit in the sun, and I don't want my camera sitting in the sun because it just gets hot. Before we continue with the story, I figure there's one thing that I really should just bring up now before we start getting really deep. I do have PTSD from a lot of stuff I've gone through, and as a product of that, there are times when I'll be talking about certain subjects, and it might not necessarily be what I'm talking about on camera as far as what you're hearing, but while I'm talking about stuff, I'm also thinking about memories at the same. I can multitask. I can speak about, I can speak to you, but I'm also recalling many different memories in different types of sequences as I'm going, and whatever I might be talking out loud, I might be thinking about other things too, and sometimes those things are the painful memories. As feeling pretty much like I'm feeling as I'm telling the story, I'm feeling emotions that I felt at that time. And some of those emotions are negative emotions. There's some of them are sadness, anger, confusion, frustration, this whole combination of different emotions I was feeling at the time. There's also all the good feelings too, but I'm talking about the negative stuff right now. So through the progression of this story, there's going to be times when I'm talking about things and I might end up just getting choked up, where I'm like on the edge of tears, or there might even be tears. For you as the person watching this, however many times this happens as I'm telling the story, it's really important for people that have really bad attitudes, in the context of people being allowed to show their emotions. People in general, humans, are emotional beings. Like, you can't, if you just think about a rainbow, just a rainbow in the sky, you have all the different colors of the rainbow. So metaphorically, like human beings, you experience anything from anger, sadness, depression, happiness, joy, overabundance, every emotion you can think of. Just imagine those as a different color of a rainbow. The controllers in this world, the bad people in this world, are trying to repress people's emotions and stop people from being emotional. They've been trying to get people to perceive emotions as a weakness, which is just a thing. They're just trying to turn everybody into a bunch of drones, heartless drones that have no empathy and don't care. But I'm not a heartless drone, and I have a lot of empathy for I have a lot of empathy for pretty much everything that's suffering. Just to summarize it. When I see people suffering, animals suffering, just things suffering, it makes me upset. I can't help it. But the point is, for bringing all this up, is that people that have a bad attitude towards emotions and they view emotions as a weakness, they just need to be, if they see me cry on camera or get emotional on camera and they start laughing or anything, they really need to understand how I operate Usually I get upset first, get get sad or whatever. First it's getting upset and then I get angry. So when I get angry, it's usually whoever's been laughing at me or thinking it's funny. They do something fucked up and they think it's funny. And then they think it's funny that I'm crying or upset about it. But they don't really understand once I get past that, that's when I start getting mad and angry. And that's when the people who've been laughing, that's when it's their turn to start getting afraid and get scared. Because if I get upset, there's usually somebody that's responsible for making me upset, and then they become my target, and they're the ones who feel my wrath when I get really mad. They're the ones who all of that gets channeled into. So the where I'm going with this is, as I'm sharing this story, every single time you see me cry, if it happens, I'm trying to do my best to just not allow my emotions to interfere with the story, but it's going to happen. I'm just trying to keep it in check. As I'm sharing this story, every time you see me cry, just take note. And then at some point, once we start getting closer to, where we're at now in 2024, you're going to understand how I've transmuted all of my pain into channeled anger, if you were to describe it as something, to where before my arrest, I've mentioned before my arrest, I didn't know who I could trust. I thought I was pretty much on my own. And so, had things gone really bad at that time, and say I died, pretty much everybody under the sun would have faced my wrath. And it would have been not a good thing, had I died and been released from my body as far as my spirit. That's how angry I was. But considering that we've made it past all of that, and things have transpired in the manner that they have, and that I've identified my friends and everything, as a whole, everybody under the sun has avoided a worldwide cataclysm as a product of me dying. And I will explain what all this means. I'm just throwing this out there for you to chew on. Just understand every time that the amount of times I've been hurt, betrayed, backstabbed, had my life destroyed. All of that combined is pretty much just like dumping gasoline onto a fire, just metaphorically. Every time it's happening, every time somebody's hurting me, it's like you guys, I might be crying, but you guys are, I'm just speaking generally to all the bad people. I'm just like, you guys are fucking retarded, because once I get past being upset, I'm going to be very angry. And once I'm very angry, you're going to pay for it. And here we are in 2024. My friends have revealed themselves. I know I'm no longer alone. I know what's going on. I'm aware of this good versus evil, this battle about the neutrals in between. I know who I am, and I know my friends have been trying to communicate with me so long. But the amount of resources, manpower, and time that my friends, the good guys, have been trying to get through to me to let me know that not everybody's bad. It's taken a while. I will explain how all of this is going to evolve to such an extreme situation, because we're not there yet. I'm just telling you where I've been mentally. I've been on the brink of just considering how deep I have been in this battle, um, there's been times I've been on the brink of just saying fuck it all, and just start creating just to go after every bad guy that I know by myself. Just find my first bad guy, and I'm just describing things I've thought about before I've realized my friends have shown up, before I even knew they were around protecting me. Just this is from the perception where I thought I was on my own. After I had established that if somebody ever takes my dog, that's gonna, it's like metaphorically like a light switch. If somebody ever takes my dog from me, he's the last thing I care about, If somebody stole him, that'd be like flipping a light switch to where I don't care anymore if I live or die. So that would mean that pretty much I would start with the first bad guy that I know of. It'd probably be my father. I'm just saying, metaphorically, theoretically, if this light switch had been flipped and my friends had not announced themselves and made their presence known to me when they did, we were at a point in time where once Malaki got taken from me, I probably would have went and found my dad and dealt with him with this thing. I'm not going to. I'm saying I would have went and dealt with him, and then I would have taken the key to his gun safe, and I would have went and got all of his guns, and then I would have went hunting by myself. I would have just started looking for every single bad guy that I know of, and I would have went and tried to deal with them, as many as I could, until I eventually got taken out. And then once I got taken out, there's a big bug crawl on my leg. And then once I got taken out, I'd be free from my body, and then I would be free to do what I need to do to fix this world, which would involve pretty much a nuclear strike from outside of this firmament. It would come from the sky, and the entire Earth would burn. That's what has been avoided. We're not going there. It's like that's not what's going to happen. So as I'm telling you all this, like, don't be afraid, because we've avoided this disaster as far as I'm concerned. What I'm saying is, every time you see me cry, it's at a different, in 2017 this happened, 2018 this happened, 2019. As I'm telling the story, I'm just watching this bug crawl at my leg. See where he goes. But understand, as I keep going deeper and deeper into this abyss, this darkness, figuring out what's going on, all of my times that I'm telling you that every time you see me cry, and anybody that's laughing at me as I've been crying, back then when they were laughing as I was upset, and even now if anybody's watching this and they're laughing, at some point all of that gets turned around, and right now all my anger is channeled. Like everything that I've experienced, that pain I have felt, it's no longer just going to destroy everything. It's now I know who's responsible, and I've seen the web. I've literally seen the web while on psychedelics. I've literally seen these hot white tethers, how everything's connected to different things. And it's all been explained to me on how it works, what the tethers are. But now I have identified the source of our problems, and it's all, they can't escape. The bad guys can't escape. They're all tethered together. No matter where they go or the distance they are, they're all connected together. So they can never run or hide no matter where they go. And so after all this pain I've been through, that anger that I've been holding on to for so long, I've done everything in my power not to hurt any innocent people as this has been happening. everybody that has been aware of me, who's been keeping track of me as I've been in this state. You guys have all heard me say some pretty messed up things that are not nice, really fucked up shit. Just stuff that I'm just venting because I'm so pissed off and scare a lot of people when I'm in that state of anger. But now I'm no longer in that state. If you were to just describe it as I'm no longer in that state, I'm in a peaceful state. But that anger's still there because the bad guys, as far as I'm concerned, they're still walking free, but they're watching this video. And now, as I'm saying this, if they're watching this video, they understand that I'm no longer, like, when they see my tears, they can also see behind my tears and they can see how angry I am. And that's anybody that's on my shit list, and you're watching this, you should probably be really, really fucking afraid. Because my friends have been watching this whole thing. They know all of it. And so, they're probably pretty angry too. And so, if they've identified the bad guys and they know everybody who's involved from big to small and small to big, from the highest ranks down to the lowest ranks. So if you're watching this and you're just nothing more than a foot soldier for the bad guys, you should be just as scared as the person in charge. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've given law enforcement and military my blessings to come after you guys. I've said you guys, I've given them my blessings to do it now if they want to. Now, as in today, if they want to. But for my shoes, I have not had direct contact with them. They're playing their game and they're respecting my space to allow me to accomplish what I need to do without any kind of distractions. They're just there in the distance, and they're not allowing any bad guys to come within a certain proximity of me. They intercept all of them, and so I can sit here in the woods and not have a single person fuck with me. There are microphones in my van, probably listening through my phone. You know, you got, if they know, if I'm speaking to them every time I'm driving in my van, even though they can't speak back, but they know that I'm aware that they're listening. So anytime I want to communicate with something, tell them where I'll be in a couple hours, tell them my plans throughout the day. They can have everybody in position before I've even arrived. They can set microphones up around here, hidden cameras around here. So it's all, you know, as I'm speaking, they're live. They can hear everything I'm speaking as I'm speaking now. This is a theory. That's where we're at. My friends are entirely hidden. They're hidden out of sight. So any bad guys that try coming for me to try to stop me, good luck. Good luck for you guys. I'm still here. Not a scratch on my body. You guys have not fucking laid hands on me this entire time. None of the bad guys have laid hands on me. As far as I'm concerned, while I've been going through all this, my fight has been all mental and spiritual. And since I've defeated those demons, in that different, this multi-dimensional chess game, I've defeated a bunch of demons in different layers of this chess game. And now that I'm speaking to you in this physical sense, it's like I'm giving, law enforcement, military, you guys fucking have at it. Go get them. If you guys are ready to make your moves, go get them. But if it's not time yet, take your time, have fun. As I'm saying all this, you can, if you're one of the good guys, if you're law enforcement or you're part of the military and you're watching this video and you're watching me speak and say all this, like you can be laughing. You can be laughing right now knowing that I'm taunting the bad guys as wherever they're at and they're watching this video. You can imagine they're probably shitting their pants. They're probably fucking terrified. Not only do they not know how to get to me, they're probably really paranoid because whoever they've been taught, say you're a bad guy and all of a sudden you're hearing all this and then whether you were aware or not, but all of a sudden you have a cell phone and you've been talking to people, your friends, people that are part of your little shit that you're doing. clock's out. I gotta stop. But as you can imagine, like if you're a bad guy and you've been communicating with your friends, other bad guys, sending text messages, emails, phone calls, all of a sudden you're hearing these words coming out of my mouth and you're hearing that everything's been getting listened to. It'd probably make you a little paranoid to even go outside. Step outside of wherever they're at, step outside of their house. They're probably too scared to even do that, knowing that at any point in time, if they know that they're pledged into something bad, and law enforcement has the go-ahead, any point in time, they can just law enforcement or military can just roll up and bam, 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 bam. You'll load their bodies up inside some type of vehicle and then drive you down to the crematorium and throw you into the furnace. That's my level of anger right now. So anybody that's laughed at me while I've cried or been in pain, cheering for my suicide, promise you it's going to come back a millionfold. And it's not just me that's gone through all this. I'm very much aware of all the innocent people that have been murdered, raped, children that have been raped, children that have been kidnapped, human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, pedophilia rings. I'm aware of all this stuff. And so there's a lot of innocent people, a lot of innocent victims that are still alive and are still in their own layers of hell dealing with this with no escape. And then there's a lot of individuals, a lot of innocent people who have already been murdered. They've already gone through that. So that's that. Understand, I'm very fucking angry, and I've done everything in my power not to hurt anybody while I've been fighting these demons in this darkness, figuring out what's going on. The bad guys have done everything in their power to defeat my mind, body, and soul. Just everything they have thrown at me has been trying to get me either to commit a crime and hurt somebody innocent, and which would result in me going to prison or a state hospital / mental institution, or defeating my mind in a way that I would just be so devastated that I would just, I'd kill myself. If I would self-terminate, then that's their ultimate goal. But now that I've beaten their game, it's like the tables have turned. And now everybody who's been watching on my side, that has been watching all this, everybody can cheer and be happy knowing that this table has turned, because I've seen what their game is. And now it's like, okay guys, let's go get them. Let's go get them. Have at it. So imagine this is all my friends, this is me, tables turn, and I'm right here just on the cusp of just complete world catastrophe, and now we're not going to have a world catastrophe. Okay, go get them. Go get them all. And I just stand here and just imagine a wave of my friends appearing out from behind me, and then they just go take care of it, and I just sit here and watch. And then when they're done, we're gonna have a big ass party, and then they can show me all their footage. Especially law enforcement, military. You guys all have your body cameras, and you guys have all the different types of cameras and communications and technology you have. I'm looking forward to seeing some of this stuff, seeing some of the raids you guys have done and ambushes you guys have thwarted, your own ambush. I want to see what you guys have been up to. I'd be looking forward to it, and I'm really excited to hear you guys' stories. Whatever battles you guys have fought in this, this invisible war, this good versus evil, this battle in hell. A lot of you have probably been through your own forms of hell, and I'm saying at some point I can stop talking, and then I can just start listening and allow you guys to share your stories with me, and I'm just be happy to listen and allow you guys to unburden your souls, because one of the perks of me speaking about all of this, anytime even if I do cry, I also look at it as a positive thing, in the sense where I'm letting stuff out and it's no longer being held in, because I haven't for such a long period of time. It's all been in, everything I've been dealing with has been in here. I've been having to process everything in here and having nobody to share it with. But now that I'm aware of what's going on, there you go. Now I'm just letting it all out. And some of it is going to include the pain that I've gone through, and you'll probably feel some of the pain that I've gone through. You'll feel it, you like through the TV screen or computer monitor or phone that you're watching through. You'll feel my pain. You'll literally feel it. And then there'll be times when I mention things that might resonate with your own experiences, and you might start going through your own. You might start crying just because you start thinking about things you've been through, and that's all part of the healing process. You got, if it doesn't matter if you're the biggest, baddest guy on YouTube. As far as everybody watching YouTube, if say you just, as far as how people perceive you, as just a badass motherfucker, and nobody has ever seen you cry, but at some point you're watching my videos and you just fucking start bawling like a baby, totally expected. Let it out. Let it out. Because if you let it out, you'll feel it coming on, and you might try fighting it, and you might fight it off. But if you just allow it to come, those tears to come, and then you just let it out, you might start bawling like a baby. You might start having ropes of snot hanging out of your nose. What I'm getting at is, by the time you're done, you'll feel better. You'll feel better. So just, if at any point in time in this story that happens to you, just let it happen. Pause the video, let it happen, and take a break, and then whenever you feel like hitting play again, I'm right here. Let's keep going. We're not done yet. And that's all part of the process. That's what I'm trying to communicate to you, to let you know it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. As I start telling a story and I start taking us all into the darkness, it's going to be okay, because we're going to come out of it at some point, because I'm here right now explaining it to you, right? So just imagine like the old Willy Wonka movie, when Willy Wonka's taking all of his guests down the chocolate river, down that tunnel, and it becomes like a nightmare. The guys are going down the tunnel, and everybody's screaming for the ride to stop, and then everybody's thinking it's going to be the end. They don't know what the hell is happening, and all of a sudden they're just in another place, and Wonka's like, we're here. So it's kind of be like that, okay? I'm gonna have to move the camera. I'm sitting in the sun. I don't want to sit in the sun, so I'm gonna pause. Okie doke. Change the background a little bit. Now I get a look at my van. I'll get this started. Yeah. Let's see. I feel like I've covered a lot of stuff. I'm on my last camera battery, so I'm just gonna. It was a good thing I stopped recording, because the battery, my second battery was about dead. It was flashing. Just kind of intuition. I need to stop real quick. But I changed the battery, so I got a full battery right now, and I'm gonna probably just keep speaking until my battery's dead, and that's my last one. So that'll conclude as far as I get for the day, and then which is gonna involve going back down to town, hanging out near power outlets, and getting everything assembled so that I can share with you. So it's gonna take a while. It's gonna be another 3 or 4 days worth of work. So that's what I'm saying, man. It's taking a lot of work doing all this, and if you're liking what I'm doing so far, all you gotta do is just send a little resources on my PayPal, just to give me a confirmation that I'm on the right track, and then that way, not only will I be able to continue feeding myself and Malaki, and that way we don't get super skinny. I mean, I'm skinny enough, but even more skinny. And then maybe I can go get some new pants. I need to get new pants that fit. These pants are too small or too big, and my belt's too big. And as expensive as jeans and pants are, that's a chunk of my money out that I can't afford right now. But with that said, so we're going to continue forward with the story, see how far I can get. I got the timer going. Yeah, so Malaki's now my life. I got Malaki, I believe, I think it was sometime in January of 2017. And, he was 6 weeks old. So, at some point, I got a travel van. I traded my 4Runner in for a travel van. I found a van just like this one, except the colors were different. So this is blue, white, blue, white. The van I had was white, blue, white, blue. Just exact same model, year. This is in 1988. I was born in 1988. Just kind of a joke from my friends. See if I catch on. But yeah, it's just as old as I am. Exact same make and model as my last van. So, when I'm talking about the van I used to have, you can just pretend it's this one, except with the colors different. When I got that van, it was just two front seats. You got the driver's seat front, and then the front passenger seat, and then the back was just a shell. So I went to Lowe's and bought a big chunk of plywood, like an 8-foot piece of plywood, and some 2x6s, and built just a plywood bed frame, with legs. And I just put it in the back of the van, and then just put a bunch of bedding on it. And then I got my storage, all my belongings and stuff underneath, that goes underneath the shelving. And it's funny enough, this is not the same van as that one, but my friends are involved with getting this to me. But they built the exact same type. I mean, it looks the exact same. I think the legs are a little bit shorter than the one I had, but it's no biggie. But everything looks identical, which is pretty funny. At first I thought I was tripping. When I found this one, I just felt like I was tripping. I was like, are you fucking serious? Is that my van? Because I thought it was at first. Especially when I looked inside and saw the bed. I was like, God, is this it? What the hell? And then I figured out it's just close but not the same. But yeah, so I got a van just like this one. And then I think it was around April or so, I ended up wanting to test out the van life for a little while before I left Oregon. And so I had Milwaukee with me, and so he's a little bit bigger. A couple months later, you wish a little, when you get a little puppy, you wish he'd stay little for a long time, but they grow fast. So within just a few months, he was a lot bigger. His ears were pointing rather than drooping. And then we ended up going to the Redwoods in California. We just went on like a little road trip as far as the Redwoods in California and the Bald Hills, which is a really pretty area. And then we went back north up into Oregon. And I just slept in the van out in nature and stuff, and then along the coastline, just testing it out, see if I would like it, get acclimated to everything I'd put in there, as far as, if everything was arranged the way I wanted it, or if I needed to get more stuff or get rid of stuff. It's kind of like a trial period. Eventually, I don't remember how long I was gone on that. It's windy. Just gotta wait a moment. Just have to speak up a little bit. I don't remember how long I was gone on that road trip, but eventually I returned back to Central Oregon for a short period of time. And then I eventually left for Montana, which is where I spent the summer. One of the biggest things that happened during this time frame, right around, I believe it was this, this was when it happened. So right around the time I got Milwaukee and then got the van, you need to really take into account to everything that since Hawaii, everything that I learned from Grant, as far as stuff happening in the world and my perception of what this earth is and what it isn't. From that time frame, whenever I had free time, I was still doing research on stuff. Even in Colorado, everywhere I was going, when I had free time, I was on YouTube or on the internet doing research on all kinds of different topics, conspiracy stuff, or just real things that are commonly known. Listening to podcasts and YouTube, different varieties of YouTube channels, people that are speaking about all these different types of real-world topics. So from Hawaii all the way up until this moment that I had the van, my learning was continuing. I was still learning, and then the things that I had learned, those were growing into more broad understandings. Like I had a greater understanding about each topic. And so my awareness of what was happening in the world, as far as what I believed was true and not true, my awareness was growing significantly. And so at this point in time, once Malaki came into my life and I had the van, that's when I started. That's when I just started to speak a little bit on social media. Up until that point, I had been using Instagram and Facebook strictly for photography. If you can remember, I mean, it depends on who you are watching the video and how long you've known me. And as far as going as far back as quitting Costco and everywhere I've been since then, up until this period of time in early, April, May of 2017, I'd just strictly been using Instagram and Facebook for my photography only. Nothing, all the things that I had learned, I had consciously chosen not to talk about it, and I just try to keep my social media pages focused on sharing art, photography, art, whatever you want. Just sharing the places that I've been, just to try to keep it a positive atmosphere for people who were subscribed to my page, just to keep all the negative out. At the time, that's what I was trying to do, even though I was aware of all this stuff. But once Malaki came in my life and I got out on the road in the van, I might not have been out on the van yet, but I think I was still in Central Oregon. But at some point, the things that I had learned were starting to bother me, in the sense that I was starting to get a little baffled as to why everybody that I knew, as far as friends and acquaintances and just people that I've met in general, none of those people have talked about any of the things I've learned. Okay. So as far as social media, nobody that I know was talking about any of the stuff that I was aware of. But the things that I had learned seemed pretty significant. Like, these are things that need to be talked about. Why is nobody bringing it up? Same thing as far as just random information you find on the internet and YouTube and other social media platforms. All these different things that I'd learned, nobody's talking about it. Why? I know the reasons why, but that's for you to figure out why. At some point, after everything I learned, I made this decision. Well, I just want to start talking about it a little bit. So I started sharing pictures, memes and stuff of like different perspectives of different topics. I'm waiting on the wind. I can't even remember. It's so far back, I don't remember everything I shared, but I started using Instagram as a place to share my perspective on real world things, rather than just using Instagram as a place to share photography. Well, I kept sharing my photos, but you're allowed to share a caption underneath, and so I was just writing my perspective on things, and then whoever read it, maybe they like my perspective, or maybe it'll just make them think a little bit. I don't know. And I kid you not, it was like within a week or two of doing this, of trying to share my perspective with the world, somehow somebody hacked my email account, and once they had access to my email account, they tried logging into Instagram, and then they did like the forgot password. And so they were able to do a password recovery through my email account. And so they changed my password. So they pretty much stole my Instagram. They stole my Instagram account from me. They changed my password, and they changed the recovery email address. So they changed the email address for the account and the password for it. So they stole it. And then after they stole it, whoever it was that took possession of my account, they started uploading more than a dozen, at least. Dozens, a couple dozen pictures of a whole bunch of different women in lingerie, in their underwear, like models, people that don't even know. It's like they went on the internet and just started saving pictures of women in lingerie and their bikinis and underwear and stuff. And then they started uploading those pictures to my Instagram page, putting it off as if I'm the one that took those pictures. So this all happened in a really short time frame where somebody stole it. I think they took over the account sometime during the night while I was asleep, and then the next morning when I woke up, I couldn't log into my Instagram, and then I was being told that, my password doesn't work. And then at some point I try doing the password recovery. None of it works, right? And then at some point I used a different device to go look at my account, and that's when I found all these pictures of all these women that had been uploaded to my account. What the fuck? And then a short time later, I'm having friends of mine contact me through Facebook, and they're asking me why I'm posting pictures of women in their underwear and lingerie, and I'm telling them that it's not me, it's somebody else. Somebody else just hacked my account, and now they're doing it. And so a number of my friends contacted me asking me this, and then there was nothing I could do about it. I tried getting my account back, but through Instagram's policies or how they do things, when I tried to report my account being stolen, in order to submit my ticket or my complaint or whatever, they were telling me I needed to take a picture of my hand and fingerprints and my eyes and send that to them. And I was like, hell no, I'm not sending that stuff to a fucking social media corporation for them to have my biometrics. It's all too late now, but at the time that's how I felt, so I didn't do it. So long story short, whoever took my account, they literally stole it, and there was nothing I could do to get it back. So I went ahead and asked all of my friends that I could reach on Facebook for them to report my account, my Instagram account. Long story short, that entire account that had all of my photography, everything that I had shared since I left Costco, all of it got deleted. All of it. I'm gonna have to stop because it's getting windy, and it looks like it's probably gonna stay around for a while. So yeah, I'll have to continue on later.